Hi, I'm Larry Andrews. I'm a motorcycle rider and I hate Harley Davidson. I'm sitting here hanging out with the last surviving brain cell of Harley owners, enjoying a nice hot cup of Harley Davidson owners' tears. Wow, that's really good. When you guys cry about something, you produce. I'll give you that. Wow. So what the hell am I talking about? Evidently something's going on in Harley corporate and they've gone woke. Oh, the Harley Davidson's woke. They gone woke. Fuck that Harley Davidson. They gone woke. Okay, if by woke you mean enacting corporate policies of inclusion and equality and stuff like that, sure, they're woke. Oh my God, they've gone woke, honey. We have to leave the country and we have to divest ourselves. You guys are nuts. And here's what's really funny to me. So I've said this on many forums, on videos, on Facebook, TikTok, other places, saying how much I dislike Harley Davidson. And I'm like, you guys, all of you that are complaining about this and crying over this, you've been force-fed garbage since day one. You buy these Harleys, they're garbage. Everybody knows they're garbage. I had a Harley Davidson mechanic who does not work for a Harley Davidson dealer, but he's a mechanic. He's factory trained. He's a really good guy, but he works at a multi-brand independent shop. And we were just talking one day when I had my Yamaha in for brakes. He's like, I don't really see a whole lot of these motorcycles because, they're really put together well. There's nothing major. I don't have to do a lot of work on any of these. And then he taps his chest because he's got the Harley Davidson shirt, and he's like, thank God for these people. They paid my mortgage. They put my kids through school. I love Harley Davidson. And I'm just hanging out with the last surviving brain cell of most Harley owners. And the last surviving brain cell asked me, hey, you ride motorcycles, right? Yes. You've owned a bunch of big bikes over the years, right? Yes. You don't actually own a car, do you? No. Well, then why do you dislike Harley so much? Well, last surviving brain cell, I'm glad you asked. I'll tell you why. I first got interested in riding motorcycles in 2004. And that was after a 4-year recovery from a really bad injury brought on by a drunk driver. And I was in a work truck. And this drunken little douche bro was out with his buddies, college. I don't even want to. Anyway. Preppy, yuppie, whatever the hell you want to call him. He decides, they're going to get loaded at the bars and they're going to ride home. They're going to drive home. I'm going to race. I'm going to open her up, see what she can do. Rear-ended me at 130 miles an hour. In a van. I was in a van. He was in this tiny little Mitsubishi. One of the Mitsubishi sports cars from I don't know the one exactly what it was. But he hit me so hard he got under the back of my van, picked up the back of the van, and basically shoved me through a whole bunch of cars on the right side of the road, spun me around, shoved me through a whole bunch of cars on the left side of the road. And when everything finally stopped, him and his buddy got out and tried to run. So, besides that whole thing happening, it was bad. It was really bad. And I have a really good friend who basically I owe him my life. His name is Big Bob. I'm not going to get too into it with him. But basically it took me 4 years to recover from that injury. And when I finally recovered, he bought me my first motorcycle. So before we get to that, I'm going to tell you why I went to motorcycles. Because the next motherfucker that rear ends me and almost kills me had better kill me. Because if I get up and I go through, I am not going through that again. I went through 4 years of ridiculousness with medical stuff, and our healthcare system is shit. Then I had to go through 3 to 4 years worth of legal crap because of the way it's put together. It was blame the victim the whole way along. And I look the way I look. You know, my hair's in a ponytail right now. I got long hair. I'm 6'2". I look the way I look. And, you know, when you have internal injuries, you don't see them. Now, if I had broken my neck and had a halo, that would have been a different story. But no, I just, you only had a concussion. No, it was way more than that. And I love that. Only had a concussion. Anyway, so I had 4 years of nothing to do. So I started researching, and I researched and researched and researched. I really wanted to like Harley Davidson. I did. I really, really did. I have family in upstate New York. They all own Harleys. And even when I was a kid and I'd hang out with them, the cousins, I was like, why do you ride these things? They stink. They leak. They're loud. They're just bleh. It's a Harley Davidson. It's American made. It's the soul of America. The soul of freedom. I'm like, but why can't you do the same thing on any other motorcycle? It's not the same. And if I have to explain to you, you'll never understand. That's a whole nother thing. There you go. Last surviving brain cell. That's one reason, because it's a bullshit answer. If I have to explain to you why I'm doing something, you'll never understand it, means I can't explain it. There's no logical anything behind this. It just is. Which, if somebody said that, I would accept it. I would absolutely respect that more than if I have to explain it to you, you wouldn't understand. So that was first. So then I have another, other friends and stuff that all ride Harleys, and I'm like, why? Well, it's a feeling of the camaraderie. You got the hog chapters, you got the Harley owners group, everybody gets together, blah, blah, blah. Okay, there's two. That's number 2 up there, last surviving brain cell. The camaraderie and everyone gets together. Okay. And then they say, oh, you exercise your individuality. That's when, because every motorcycle looks the fucking same. All of them. Every time I've gone to rallies, gone to the motorcycle hangouts, with very few exceptions, they're all black Harleys, and they all look the same. There's nothing looking at them going, oh yeah, that's cool, that's different. 5, 6, it's all wacky shit. Nobody could tell me that Harley Davidson build quality, because I'm a gearhead, I'm a techie, I build stuff, I used to build stuff for a living. Nobody once ever told me that, the Harley Davidson engineering is the best engineering there is, and this is why. They never said anything of, Harley Davidson is the most reliable, and here's why. Because the old joke, and again, from a Harley mechanic, told me this joke that, hey, 98% of every Harley Davidson ever made is still on the road today. The other 2% made it to their destination. Okay, because there's that. And then there's the AMF years, which nobody wants to talk about. It's like the Klingons, All right, why did the Klingons look like the humans? We don't talk about it to outsiders. Well, it's the same thing with Harley Davidson, Well, what happened in the middle there? We don't talk about that with outsiders. Let's not talk about that. But look at this. At one time, and this is from my own research, at one time Harley was the best. They were the biggest, they were the best. And then something happened. Oh yeah, the 70s happened when the Japanese started cranking out stuff that ran better, was cheaper, and ran with more reliability. And that's when it all went to hell. And then, because of the gas shortage and all that stuff that happened, Harley started going downhill a little bit. And then they got to the point where they had like zero money left, and then AMF bought them, American Manufacturing and Foundry. Yeah, because that's a good idea. And they would just, their build quality went down even further. So then after AMF, this is all from what my own personal stuff. If everybody wants to fill in on this and correct me, please do. I'll even come to you and we can sit down on camera and we can talk about it. I got no problem with that. So they basically AMF kept Harley afloat, and those are the dark years from what everybody says. And then Willie G. Davidson, I guess, put everything together and rebought the company back from AMF and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. So that's my understanding of Harleys. Now, when I was recovering from the wreck and I couldn't do anything, I would go to different motorcycle places. So where I used to live in Venice, and Venice had a motorcycle row down on Lincoln. It was just a ton of different motorcycle dealers, all of them. Honda was there, Kawasaki, Suzuki, Yamaha, BMW, they were all there. And yes, the big Harley dealer. So I was doing research, but I figured, I'm still messed up. I can't actually ride. I can't test drive or anything. But let's check them out. Let's sit on them. Let's gather some information. And so, of course, the first place I went was the big Harley dealer. I walk in, and the Harley heads are all there staring. And this is 2002, 2003-ish. During the whole chopper craze, during the whole custom bike craze on TV, it was insane. It was just motorcycle mania. And so I walk in and I'm looking around. Guy comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, what do you want?" I'm like, "Well, I'm thinking about getting a motorcycle. I just want to see what you guys have to offer." I'm looking around because like I said, I'm 6'2". I got long legs. And I had already done enough research to know I did not want a Sportster. Why? Because of the way they're put together. They're really tiny, they're really small, and they vibrate like a motherfucker. And I did not want that at all. I already had enough trouble up top. I didn't need more of it. I knew I didn't want that because it's too small. Plus, I wanted something I already knew going in that I was going to abandon four-wheel transport. I was gonna not do cars anymore. So I wanted to make sure that if I'm gonna get something, it's big enough for me, I can carry stuff on it, and I'm gonna be able to. It's gonna run. It's gonna be reliable, because I don't have time to have the thing break down and not be able to get around. And I explained this to this guy, and he just looked at me. It's like, "Well, you don't just buy a Harley Davidson. You have to earn one. So why don't you go out, get yourself together, then come back in about a year and then we'll talk." It's like, what? Okay. And I left. And just for fun, I went to the other big Harley dealer in that area, and I walked in. Same thing, guy walks up to me, he's like, "What do you want?" It's like, "Well, I'm thinking about buying a motorcycle. I know I don't want to do a Sportster." "Well, for your first bike, that's what you want. You don't want nothing but a Sportster." I said, "Look, I don't want a Sportster. It's too small. I'm really looking at," and at the time I was looking at either a Road Glide, because the Road Glide made sense to me with the frame-mounted fairing, and it was the only one of Harley that made any sense to me was that the frame-mounted fairing, the way it handled, when I sat on the thing, it wasn't heavy in the handlebars, and it was okay. It was small. It was a little small for me, but I was like, okay. let's see what happens. And I told the guy, I was like, I'm kind of thinking of a road glide. You don't want no road. How do you want a road glide? You don't even know what you're talking about. You don't just buy a Harley Davidson. You gotta earn it. That was the second sales guy who said that to me. Now, maybe it was because of the timing, because of all the stuff on TV. Harley Davidson was full of their own cock, so that they figured, well, you know, I can suck my own dick. I don't need anybody else to. So that's what they were thinking by turning people away and saying that. So I let it go. I left, and then I went to all the other dealers because they're all lined up in a row. Sat on a bunch of motorcycles, looked around. I was like, wow. And then I came across the Yamaha Royal Star. Yamaha Royal Star was introduced in '96 as an answer to the Road King, not the Road Glide, but the Road King in '96. And that motorcycle was built with the Yamaha VMAX motor in it, a detuned version of the Yamaha VMAX. And the VMAX was like the super cruiser, was the super power cruiser at the time. The biggest, baddest thing on the street was that. But they put it in a big touring frame, a big cruising frame. It had a windshield on it. It had good side saddlebags on it. They let me sit on the thing. I sat on the thing. It was perfect. Perfect. I wasn't cramped. I didn't have to sit a funny way. I could sit right down on my natural hand positions. My natural leg positions were on the floorboards. It was perfect. I was like, this is what I'm going to get. And then I stopped. I looked at BMWs. I looked at the Kawasaki's. I looked at Suzuki's. I looked at all of them. Even the Gilroy Indians. And I'm glad I didn't do that, because after a whole bunch of research on those, I was like, nope. Why? Because they were using S&S motors, but they had what they called the bottle cap heads. And the bottle cap top, it was a round head with a round valve cover on it. So it looked like a bottle cap. They were powder coating them, but they weren't tension plating them. So the way to do that right is to basically put a piece of steel on top, a piece of steel on bottom, and 4 bolts through it, and just bolt the whole thing together and tension it so that when they bake it to get the powder coat, bake it on, it doesn't warp the head, it doesn't warp the cylinder. And they didn't do that. So a lot of their engines were just blowing up. And from what I recall, again, it's a while ago, from what I recall, they weren't caring. They just didn't care. So that was completely off the table. So a couple years went by. I was still researching. Harley had a ton of problems. Harley had a bunch of recalls. Harley had a bunch of unsatisfactory reports. The reviews were awful. I was like, well, if all these people who don't know each other hate this particular model, how come the Harley people love it so much? Cachet. That's why. You're not buying a motorcycle when you buy Harley Davidson. You're buying a lifestyle when you buy a Harley Davidson. Nuts. I'm not that guy. I don't have that particular void in me that I need to fill by doing that. So I kept looking. The Kawasaki's I was looking at, the Suzuki's I was looking at, they all had problems. The Yamaha Royal Stars, and I checked it from the beginning of the run, they didn't have any callback. They didn't have any recalls from what I remember. And there were no negative reviews. Nobody had anything bad to say about those things except one. And the one bad thing that everybody said was it's, quote, too heavy. Like, you're sitting on it, you're riding it, you're not carrying it. How is it too heavy? Like, you're whatever. But that was it. It's too heavy. Nobody said anything bad about the ride, the build quality. Nobody said anything bad about anything. The motor in that motorcycle was a detuned version of the VMAX engine. It's completely understressed and, for the most part, bulletproof. There were no complaints about that particular version of a motorcycle. So 2 years later, when I was finally able to like do stuff, my friend Big Bob, who got me through a lot of shit in with that injury I had, basically bought me the bike. Bought me a 96 Royal Star Tour Classic from a pawn, like a motor pawn place. It was a 96, the model that I had seen that I did, that all the people reviewed on it. So, and it was sitting there. It was a 96 in 04, so that's what, 8 years. It had 6,500 miles on it, and it was relatively inexpensive. So my friend Big Bob bought it for me. I practiced riding on it. I had already gotten my motorcycle permit, and did all the steps. And then I had another friend of mine who had a Kawasaki KZ400 at the time. He let me borrow that to take the skills test, the ridiculous skills test with the DMV in California. It's really funny. So I did it on a KZ400, which is like maybe 4 feet long. The thing's tiny. It's like a moped. But I did the skills test on that, got my license. Now I'm a fully licensed motorcycle rider. And then I just started riding the thing. I rode it all the way. The first time I took it anywhere, I rode it up to San Francisco and back. I started just riding everywhere to practice in all different kinds of weather and all kinds of different road conditions to get good at it. Because I knew once the vehicle I had at the time, once I got rid of that, I wasn't going to have a car anymore. I was just going to have the motorcycle. So the very first, the one and only crash was in Padre National Forest on a very weird road. Going up the mountain, it was nice. The pavement was good. It was all really good. Got to the top though, and I guess whoever paved the road going up decided, yeah, we're done. And we're going home. And going down the other side, cracked, crowned, off camber, switchbacks, gravelly as hell. It was bad. And I caught my front wheel on gravel, slid, lost the front wheel. The motorcycle slid down into a ditch. I ended up flat on my back, wearing a helmet, wearing gloves, wearing boots. I wasn't wearing a jacket because it was really hot, and I learned that lesson. I tore up my upper shoulder here, road rash. I was bleeding. It wasn't terrible, but it hurt. The motorcycle though, that thing's built like a tank. It ended up upside down, and it took me a while to flop it over and pick it back up, get it back up on its two wheels. Luckily, a couple college guys had pulled over in a car and helped me out with it. Got the thing up. Nothing was broken, nothing was bent, and I just kept going. And I haven't looked back since. So to the last surviving brain cell of Harley owners and everybody else out there that asks me, why do you hate Harley Davidson so much? It's because Harley Davidson at the time didn't want to do anything. They wanted nothing to do with new riders, period. And then just the what's the word? The self-important, the self-entitlement, just the walking around of, oh, we're so much better than you because, yes, well, we ride Harley Davidsons here, and, well, if you don't ride a Harley Davidson, well, then we don't want to speak with you. Oh, and by the way, we're not selling you one either, because you have to earn a Harley Davidson motorcycle. You can't just buy one. Fuck that. Fuck you. Fuck all of that. And it's just funny to me now that It's always been funny to me because they're junk compared to everything I've owned except my Ural sidecar, which is a whole nother story. The build quality on everything else I've ever owned has been 100% better than Harleys. I've ridden Harleys. I own a Harley. There's another reason. I'm going to go into that another time. But I do own a Harley. And everything that I felt about Harley Davidson without having firsthand knowledge, I now know. And it ain't good. I always tried to try out the newer Harleys at the motorcycle shows. I always got on to do the demo rides. Hideously uncomfortable, just terrible. And all these people are like, "Oh, it's a Harley, yay!" I'm like, go ride that. Go ride that machine. Well, I can't sit on that. It's not Harley. Doesn't say Harley Davidson. Oh, and that's the other thing. The mindset. If it doesn't say Harley Davidson, it's not a real motorcycle. What? Fuck that to hell too, guys. If it doesn't say Harley Davidson, it's not a real motorcycle. Ugh. Anyway, this is going longer than I wanted to. I'm probably going to edit the hell out of it. But long story short, why do I, as a motorcycle rider who does not own a car, who has one motorcycle... All right, let me go back again. So at one point, I owned 5. I had access to a 6th motorcycle. 2 of them were the big Yamaha Royal Star Ventures. Those are the big touring bikes. I had a Ural sidecar. I had a Yamaha 950 Tour, they called it, which to me was my small bike. Oh, great motorcycle, V-twin. I'm not a fan of the V-twin, but it was a V-twin, and that thing was fast and smooth and quiet. And it was a big bike. It was a pretty long motorcycle for what it was. And again, I checked it out. I sat on it. I was like, wow, this is great. And I got it at such a ridiculous deal that I had to buy it. And then, so one time, my girlfriend at the time, she always wanted to ride, but nobody would ever help her. I was like, let's go. So I taught her the basic stuff, had her take the class. She took the class. We got her a Hyosung 250 because they were giving them away at Burt's in Azusa for like $3,200 with a full warranty, brand new. Like, buy it. You won't regret it. It'll get you through, and then down the road, if you really decide you want to ride, get something bigger, and we'll just keep it. I can keep it as a backup. So she rode it, crashed it, which just happens. Everybody goes down the first 6 months they ride, but she dumped the thing. She basically buried it after like a month of riding, which is fine because with the insurance and everything, it was a wash. It was a wash. And then we were looking around. She saw a Triumph America, which is their cruiser version. It has the 850 parallel twin in it. Great motorcycle. For me, it was small. For her, it was a little bit big, but she liked it. It felt good on her, so we got the thing. So that was the 6th bike that I had access to. My original 96 Royal Star, I bought it. Like I said, I got it in 2004. I put 80,000 miles on that thing in less than 2 years. I sold it for almost what I paid for it to a guy in Arizona who hitchhiked to LA, got the thing, and rode it back to Arizona. Didn't even think twice because they're that good. And the only reason I got rid of it is because it was starting to get old. And again, I was learning. It's all been learning. You know, it needed brake rotors. You know, the big stuff started to go. There was never a mechanical issue with that motorcycle ever. I blew a radiator hose on it once because it's liquid cooled, so that was annoying. But in general, it was a great bike. And I had another motorcycle. I had the big Royal Star Venture then. That was my first Royal Star Venture. I had that thing, 50,000 miles on it. Somebody ran it over in the street, which is ridiculous to me. But because the resale value on them, they hold their value. That's the other thing about Harley Davidson, guys. Oh, you know, you gotta get that resale value. You're gonna sell it, you gotta get money back for it. Those Jap bikes, you can't sell them for shit. I'm like, what are you, fucking stupid? Who buys a motorcycle or who buys a vehicle intending to sell it so they have to recoup money? That's the dumbest thing in the world to me, especially with a motorcycle. Because you're gonna ride that thing, 90% of people out there on motorcycles wreck them anyway. You wrecked it. You put different pipes on it, you put a different seat on it, you put all this crap on it. It's not the same motorcycle anymore. I don't want to buy your version of a motorcycle. I want to buy the bike that I want, not your version of it. And then I'm going to have to go and spend another fucking ton of money to de-stupidify what you did to it. No. Anyway, so that thing held its value enough that it was a wash. They totaled it. The insurance company wrote me a check. I got a new one. Kept that. Then as things progressed, I got another one. So now I have two of those giant bikes in my garage. And then I was married. Oh, that's the other fun part. That's the other funny part too, is the Yamaha guys that I dealt with for so long. You know, everybody gets married, they sell the bike. Oh, my wife made me get rid of the bike. Well, you married the wrong one. I mean, in the long run, I married the wrong one too because we had to get divorced, but that's another set of stupidity. It has nothing to do with this discussion. I'm married and I just bought another motorcycle. Oh yeah, I bought another motorcycle. And then I bought her a motorcycle because she wanted to learn. I taught her, did the whole thing with her, and then I bought her a bike, and that was the 950 Tour. She's a tall girl. She's like 5'11", really long legs. She needed something big, but not too big, and that worked for her. So anyway, but I had at one time, I had all those bikes, and I put a ton of miles on all of them, and the one I have now, I still have my 2010 Royal Star with 100,000 miles on it. Just turned 100,000 miles. And it's funny to me that all these Harley guys, anytime I say anything about Harley, well, you've never ridden a mile in your life, have you, boy? Yeah, you're right. I've never. There goes one now. What's that? Yeah. Last brain cell said it gave her a headache. But that's another thing too. Oh, you probably ain't never ridden a mile in your life, boy. Putting down stuff you know nothing about. Really? So basically, anytime you say anything other than, oh, please, Harley Davidson owners, let me suck your cocks, please, come on me with your lube, please. If you don't do that, either you're somehow mentally inferior, you're gay, and don't tell that to the satyrs. Those guys will shred you. You're a soy boy, you're a leftist libtard, you're dumb, or you've never been on a motorcycle. Never, you know what? You're an experienced rider. This is not what you want. This is why it's not what you want. Okay. No, because every Harley rider I've ever known has made Harley Davidson their entire personality. They're branded. They're the herd. Okay, and they all talk about, ooh, let's go out. It's about individuality, freedom of the road, freedom of expression, freedom of this, freedom of that. Really? Then why is it when I'm at a place, especially a motorcycle hangout, and I'm sitting there and somebody walks in and goes, hey, Black Road King's blocking the driveway, you got to move it, 40 guys run out to see if it's their Black Road King. This is part one in why I hate Harley Davidson. Let me recap. The dealers are annoying. At least they used to be. I don't know now. Who knows? They constantly, the Harley corporate themselves pushes stuff down your throats that are not what I would call cutting edge or even modern engineering at this point, because they're not. The Milwaukee 8, don't even get me started on the Milwaukee 8. You know, and then before that was the evolution at the Evo. Ooh, Evo. And then before that, excuse me, Milwaukee 8, I'm going backwards in time. Milwaukee 8, twin cam. Twin cam. Before the twin cam was the Evo. Before the Evo, I think was the shovel head. Then the pan head, then the knuckle head, going back, the flat head. They kept changing their engines and motors. Why? Why not have something that really works well and keep it there? You know? And it's the whole chicken and the egg thing. What came first, Harley Davidson or the aftermarket? Does the aftermarket exist because of Harley, or does Harley still exist because of the aftermarket? What do you think, last brain cell? Something to think about. Anyway, I could go on. Have a good day. Have a good night. Whatever it is, wherever you are, we'll meet again. Thank you.